At the engagement banquet, my fiancé Fu Zian suddenly interrupted the ring exchange ceremony led by the host. Under the gaze of everyone, he turned and rushed to his first love, kneeling on one knee before her. In his hand was a diamond ring I had never seen before and a bank card. Ching ching. I once promised to give you a good life. This card contains 1 million, and I hope you'll accept it. In the next life, I will definitely marry you. Jiyu Qingqing's eyes welled up with tears as she accepted the card, put on the ring, and kissed my fiancé's face while cupping it in her hands. The sound of guests murmuring and discussing could be heard around. After the passionate kiss, Jiyu Qingqing choked up and walked over to me, saying, "Sister-in-law, I didn't get the chance in this lifetime, but next time, you can't compete with me anymore." After saying this, she lowered her head, shed 2 tears, and looked at Fu Zian with reluctance. Fu Zian's face was full of heartache. Everyone was waiting for my response. I smiled, took the betrothal gifts my parents had given, and said to Jiyu Qingqing, "I wish you both a happy union for 100 years. I have been in love with Fu Zian for 7 years, and his parents have always disapproved of our engagement. It wasn't until 2 months ago, when I suddenly experienced abdominal pain and discovered I was pregnant, that his family finally relented and agreed. When Fu Zian proposed to me, he promised to treat me well for the rest of his life. I thought we would go from school uniforms to wedding gowns, just like my parents did." Watching the tender look in Fu Zian's eyes as he gazed at Jiyu Qingqing during the engagement party, I knew I was wrong, from beginning to end. I was the only one who believed in this game. Their lingering and passionate kisses all declared my defeat. I lost, and I lost completely, seeing my bloodshot eyes. Jiyu Qingqing was so frightened that she covered her chest and collapsed into Fu Zian's arms, crying, "I haven't left yet." Jiyu Qingqing let out a loud "ah," and fainted. Fu Zian shouted at me angrily, "Lu Wanwan, you know very well that Qingqing has a congenital heart condition. Why did you have to scare her?" Before I could even argue, Fu Zian hurriedly picked up Jiyu Qingqing and left. Many relatives and friends at the scene couldn't stop them. I stood alone in the hall. Enduring everyone's criticism, the host looked at me, unsure of what to do. I had to suppress my anger and say to everyone, "Let's start lunch now. Just treat it as a simple family gathering." My parents, furious, pulled me aside and asked, "What's going on?" The groom ran off with another woman at the engagement banquet. Where does that leave the Lu family's reputation? Yes, many relatives already knew I was pregnant. The Fu family is a prominent figure in Jiangcheng, and my parents had always been proud that I could become their daughter-in-law. I replied somewhat unhappily, "He's already run off with someone else. Where am I supposed to find him?" My parents were so angry that they just left me behind. Fu Zian's father had always looked down on me, thinking I wasn't good enough for his precious son, and now he was even more cold and harsh toward me. "Can't even keep a man under control. How are you going to handle such a huge embarrassment?" Fu Zian's mother chimed in, "You have to give a man face in public. The way you just acted, no man would like it." I chased after Fu Zian for 2 years and was in a relationship with him for 7 years. This time, I truly feel emotionally exhausted. Being the daughter-in-law of the Fu family is not worth it anyway. Both sets of parents were so angered by this matter that they left early. Only I had to stay behind to handle the aftermath. After the guests finished eating, they glanced at me meaningfully and comforted me, saying, "Don't act impulsively in anything. Not everyone can become the daughter-in-law of the Fu family." I understand what they mean, but as I look at my own disheveled state, I suddenly lose the courage to keep going. I tightly clutch the pair of rings in my hand. They cut into my palm, and drops of blood fall to the ground. After seeing off all the guests, I completely collapse to the ground, covering my face and crying. Just when I thought the whole world had abandoned me, my mother crouched down and gently patted my back. After smelling the familiar scent, I could no longer hold back my emotions. I hugged my mother's neck and cried, tears and snot streaming down my face. Just when I thought my parents had come to save me, I realized they were pulling me into the Fu family's car. After putting me in the car, the driver immediately locked the doors, with red, tear-filled eyes. I rolled down the window and asked my parents, "Are you abandoning me? Things are not as I imagined." my mother said to me with a cold face, "You are already carrying the Fu family's child. Right now, you must go and win back Fu Ziyan, and be a good daughter-in-law of the Fu family, as long as you are fertile enough. Even 3 Gu Qingqings would be no match for you." My father also nodded in agreement, saying, "Yes, we advised you before, but you didn't listen. Now that the rice is already cooked, you should hurry and go coax Fu Ziyan." I was almost in despair, and looking at them, they felt like strangers. With a choked voice, I began to speak. "Mom, Dad, how could you do this to me?" Mom ignored me and directly had the driver take me away. I leaned back in the seat, watching their resolute retreating figures in the rearview mirror, my heart aching so much I could hardly breathe. The engagement banquet I had been eagerly anticipating for so long had now been turned into a complete mess, and suddenly, life lost all its hope. I didn't want to give in, so I stubbornly asked the driver to let me out. The driver was hesitant, but I took off the hairpin from my head and pressed it against my neck to threaten him, so he had no choice but to let me out. But as soon as I got out of the car, I regretted it. The engagement hotel was in the suburbs, and my phone had already run out of battery and shut down. With the last bit of battery left, I tried to hail a ride several times, but to no avail. I had to rely on my own 2 feet to walk into the city. Halfway there, I was unbearably thirsty, but my phone had run out of power. I had no choice but to muster up the courage to walk into a store and ask for a cup of warm water. The shop owner was a young girl who, seeing that I was well dressed but with red and swollen eyes, sympathetically gave me a bottle of mineral water. After thanking her, I continued on my way. Halfway through, dark clouds gathered. It was September, and the sudden rain brought a chill as it fell on me. Rain mixed with tears streamed down, and the cold made me tremble uncontrollably. I'm wearing new shoes today, and after walking a lot, my toes feel really sore. I don't know how long it took, but I finally made it to the provincial highway where I could hail a taxi. And with great effort, I managed to flag one down. The driver saw that I was completely drenched and kindly handed me a few tissues. I took the opportunity to borrow a charging cable from him to charge my phone so I could pay him later. After charging for 10 minutes, my phone lit up, showing over a dozen missed calls, all from Fu Ziyan. I impatiently texted him back. As soon as the call connected, he asked me with a displeased look why I had taken so long to answer. I didn't respond. And he continued angrily, "At such an important banquet, you had to embarrass me like this. What exactly are you trying to do?" Fu Ziyan didn't care at all about what happened at the scene after he left, only fixated on questioning why I had to embarrass Gu Qingqing in public. I didn't want to respond and hung up the phone directly. Within 3 minutes, my WeChat pushed a friend request notification to me. The profile picture was a photo of Gu Qingqing and a man, even though it was a back view. I recognized at a glance that the man was Fu Ziyan. I didn't want to accept it. Just as I was about to close my phone, Gu Qingqing's friend request notification popped up again. She added, "Add me, I have something to discuss." I still accepted her friend request with a skeptical attitude. Gu Qingqing immediately sent me a video. In it, Fu Ziyan was busy taking care of her, his eyes full of concern as he helped her seek medical attention, gently asking if she was feeling better. Fu Ziyan had never spoken to me in such a gentle tone. Half a month ago, even when I was pregnant and had a fever, and asked Fu Ziyan to take me to the hospital, he coldly said to me, "Let the driver take you. I need to rest early. I'm very tired today." Another time, I had acute gastroenteritis and was trembling from stomach pain, begging Fu Ziyan to drive me to the hospital. As soon as we got in the car, Fu Ziyan received a phone call and then kicked me out of the car. No matter how much I pleaded, he left without looking back. Now it seems, it's not that he didn't know a sick person needs care, he just didn't want to care for me. He promised to accompany me for the first prenatal checkup, but he never showed up. Just because Gu Qingqing mentioned wanting a limited edition bag from the luxury brand, Fu Ziyan forgot his promise to me and flew to Haicheng with her instead. I scrolled through Gu Qingqing's social media feed from top to bottom. 90% of the posts were related to Fu Ziyan. Even if Gu Qingqing just scraped her knee while walking, Fu Ziyan would be so worried that he'd take her to the hospital for disinfection. Seeing this, I couldn't help but shed tears once again. It was my gullibility in believing in Fuzian's love that led me to realize only now who the person he truly loves is. Halfway through the drive, Fuzian called me again, immediately launching into a tirade of abuse. Demanding to know why I had hung up without saying a word earlier, he criticized my upbringing, claiming my manners were not even 1/10 as good as Jiu Qingqing's. Yet I had clearly seen how Jiu Qingqing had mistreated the sales assistant at the mall. It seems that whatever a loved one does is right. Fuzian told me that Jiu Qingqing was so frightened by me that she had to be hospitalized, and he told me to hurry over to take care of her. My head was throbbing, and I struggled to force out the words, "I'm sick, I can't go." As soon as I finished speaking, I couldn't help but sneeze. The doctor advised that I should be well taken care of in the early stages of pregnancy and try to avoid getting sick as much as possible. Fuzian asked nervously, "Are you sick with a cold? Where are you now?" Before he could finish, Jiu Qingqing's sobbing voice came from the other end of the phone. "Brother, is your wife sick? It's all my fault. If I hadn't been sick and asked you to stay with me, you should be with her now. My health is useless anyway, so just let me." Fuzian didn't care that I was still listening on the other end of the line and immediately reassured her, "I won't let anything happen to you. Don't ever say that about yourself again. You have never been a burden to me." At this, Fuzian turned to me with a face full of anger and roared, "Even if you catch a cold, you can only blame yourself. Who told you to make Qingqing so angry at the banquet that she had an attack? You brought this on yourself, so you deal with it. No matter how you're feeling, you must apologize to Qingqing for what happened today and, by the way, buy her a gift and bring it over. I'll send you the location now." Jiu Qingqing continued to speak on the other end of the phone. "Brother, don't blame sister-in-law. I don't dare to make her apologize. Those two simple words, don't dare." Once again ignited Fuzian's anger. "You don't have to be afraid of her. I've got your back." At this point, I felt there was no need to struggle any further. I smiled coldly and said, "Since you two are so in love, why don't we just end things here?" It was clearly him who promised to never leave me, and it was also him who fought so hard with his family to marry me. In the end, everything turned into me being unreasonable, even to the point where I had to apologize to the woman who ruined my engagement party. Where in the world is there such a logic? Fuzian scolded me a few more times, then angrily hung up the phone. With my parents treating me this way, I had no choice but to turn to my best friend Ju Ran, who couldn't attend my engagement party today because she had a high fever. Before I even reached my best friend's house, Fuzian sent me 2 more messages. "I've sent you the location. You have half an hour. Hurry over. Stop being so willful. You schemed to get pregnant with my child just to marry me, didn't you? If you behave, I might consider forgiving you this once." I remember when we first found out about the pregnancy, Fuzian's expression wasn't as happy as I had imagined. At the time, I thought he was just a bit in disbelief. Looking back now, Fuzian's expression at that time was more one of shock. Thinking of this, I gently touched my belly. The baby was already over 3 months old. To protect this pregnancy, I stayed in the hospital for a full month. Fuzian was always on business trips and rarely came to accompany me. My pregnancy symptoms were extremely severe. In the early stages, I vomited so much that I couldn't even drink a sip of water. Relying on 4 drips every day just to maintain my vital signs, the driver dropped me off downstairs at Ju Ran's place. I hesitated for 3 seconds, then directly asked the driver to take me to the hospital. I called Ju Ran in tears, and she kept trying to persuade me to reconsider. She knew the whole process of my emotions shifting from excitement to distress over the past 3 months. She insisted on accompanying me, but I managed to talk her out of it. Some things are just meant to be faced alone. The driver kept trying to persuade me along the way, telling me how difficult it is to conceive a child and urging me to think carefully. The driver kept handing me tissues to wipe my tears, which only made me more emotionally overwhelmed. A stranger I've never met can care about me so much. Yet my closest parents and fiancé are nowhere to be found at this moment. Their words contain nothing but blame, with no other sentiments. When we arrived at the hospital, the driver even showed me a couple of photos of his child. I knew he wanted to persuade me one last time, But I had already made up my mind. I shouldn't live my life depending on Fujian. Entering the hospital, though I was extremely anxious inside, I pretended to be calm and registered at the family planning department. The nurse, seeing my pale lips, quickly asked if I had anyone accompanying me. I sighed and shook my head, then arranged for a hospital companion at the hospital. I came at just the right time. The doctor said that if the examination showed no issues, I could have the surgery directly in the afternoon. After the examination, the doctor looked at me and said, "The baby is very healthy and is already over 3 months along. Would you like to call home and think it over again?" By this time, more than half an hour had passed since Fujian had given me the deadline, and his call came through once again. I had intended to say a few final words to him, but unexpectedly, it was Jiyu Qingqing's voice that came from the other end of the line. Jiyu Qingqing whispered an apology to me, to which I coldly replied, "Stop pretending." Fujian was so angry that he couldn't control himself. He snatched the phone and yelled at me, "Lu Wanwan, don't push your luck. Qingqing is being so humble and polite to you, yet you're still being aggressive. Unless you kneel down and apologize to Qingqing, I will never forgive you." I had prepared a speech in my mind, but I forgot it again. I sighed and said to the doctor, "No need to ask any more questions, just sign it. Are you really not going to call the child's father? What if there's still hope?" I gave a cold laugh. "I just called him, and his tone was the same as always. That's it, I'll make the decision myself." Chapter 2. The surgery was very successful, but I developed a high fever afterward and stayed in the hospital for 2 days. The next day, Ju Ran felt much better and came directly to the hospital to take care of me. The nurse, seeing that I looked gloomy every day, would quietly ask me if something sad had happened. I just shook my head and waved my hand the whole time. Ju Ran knows that I have a stubborn personality and tend to get stuck in a rut. For 2 days in a row, no one cared about my whereabouts. Jiyu Qingqing occasionally updates me with photos. These past 2 days, Fujian has been almost inseparable from her. Cooking for her, accompanying her in painting, and even sleeping in the same bed together. Her social media updates were also synchronized, showing no concern that someone might notice something unusual. Fujian's friends would occasionally leave comments under Jiyu Qingqing's posts, calling her sister-in-law, especially Han Xingchen, Fujian's best friend, who had never approved of us from the very beginning. Once, after drinking, he frankly admitted that he thought Fujian and Jiyu Qingqing were the most compatible people in this world. It was also from his brothers that I gradually came to know about Jiyu Qingqing. I learned that she was the eternal white moonlight in Fujian's heart. She divorced and returned to the country 2 years ago. Reconnecting with Fujian, over the past 2 years, Fujian has indeed spent much less time with me than in previous years. Sometimes I would ask him about it, and his explanation was always, "There's a lot going on at the company, and I've been traveling frequently for work lately. Sometimes I can smell the perfume of other women on his coat, and if I ask a few more questions, he becomes very impatient." He would reply with a displeased expression, "Can you stop being so suspicious all the time? It really makes me not know how to explain things to you." Sometimes Fujian's phone would ring in the middle of the night. Once, when I had a stomachache and wanted him to come back and bring me some medicine, he disappeared for 2 whole days. 2 days later, after being discharged from the hospital, Ju Ran accompanied me home to pack my things. Everything at home remains the same. The bright red double happiness character hurts my eyes. I cried as I tore down all the engagement decorations on the wall and burned our wedding photos. I remember the photos were taken just when I started having pregnancy symptoms. I was very unsatisfied with how the photos turned out at the time. Fujian comforted me by saying I look beautiful every day, and that we could take a new set of photos with our child on our first wedding anniversary. I had even picked out the photo package in advance, but now it seems unnecessary. I took everything that belonged to me, but left behind all the gifts Fujian had given me. I don't know when Fujian will come home and discover this, but I know it's time to say goodbye to this home. It's hard to part with, but every piece of furniture and item in the children's room was personally chosen by me. I took all of my child's medical reports with me, knowing it was time to say goodbye to him. After packing up, I moved directly into Ju Ran's home. After resting for another 2 days and regaining some strength, I went straight back to work at the company. I know that sadness is temporary, but my career cannot be abandoned. During the 2 days I stayed at Durant's place, my parents called me. The only thing they cared about was whether I had managed to appease Fuzian. I made it clear to them that I would not be with Fuzian anymore. My parents retorted directly, "If you don't handle this matter properly this time, don't ever call us mom and dad again." I admit that Fuzian has been quite good to them. But after all, I am their biological daughter. The way they treat me really breaks my heart. The next evening, seeing that I still hadn't changed my mind, my mother started crying and threatening me. In the end, I couldn't bear to listen any longer and hung up the phone directly. I wanted to sneak out for a drink, but Duran stopped me and advised, "No matter what happens, you shouldn't harm your body. Why do this? Yes, my body is my own, and I should cherish it." The next morning, when I returned to the company, my colleagues looked at me with very peculiar expressions. I had invited some of my colleagues to my engagement party, and they must have found out what had happened, but I had no idea. Team member Song Ran quickly pulled me into the break room, opened her phone, and showed me that the company's small group chat had been buzzing about my situation for days. I scrolled through the messages and sneered. Song Ran hurriedly tried to comfort me. "Sister Lu, you don't need to take it too seriously. They're just saying these things because they're jealous that you married well. Yes, many girls want to marry into Fuzian's family, but they don't know the inside story. They only see the glamorous side of my marriage." I awkwardly smiled and nodded. Even on Weibo, there was news about the incident at our engagement that day, with several guests posting videos of it. Many netizens are actively discussing. I haven't been feeling well these past few days, so I didn't pay much attention to these matters. In the past, I would have caught these news in time and discussed countermeasures with Fuzian, but now I have no interest in any gossip. Many comments below say that I'm a toad lusting after a swan's flesh, and quite a few netizens praise Fuzian and Jiu Qingqing as the most well-matched couple. What they don't know is that the 7 years I spent with Fuzian were not all smooth sailing. When he first took over the Fu Corporation, he was frequently targeted by the shareholders. Everyone thought he was young and arrogant, a spoiled rich kid since childhood, and a good-for-nothing. In the beginning, he faced several dangerous situations, and it was only because I helped him avert disaster that he made it through. I took a knife for him and even had my leg broken by a steel bar while accompanying him to the construction site. That time when my leg was broken, Fuzian looked heartbroken. After I woke up from surgery, he held my hand and promised that no matter whether my leg could fully recover or not, he would remain devoted to me and never leave me. At that time, I felt that the injury was totally worth it. I was the happiest girl in the world. During lunch, Song Ran also accompanied me to eat in the company cafeteria. During that time, many colleagues turned to look at me, and scattered discussions occasionally reached my ears. Song Ran sometimes heard unbearable words and would get so angry that she wanted to rush over to argue, but I held her back. I advised her not to be too impulsive, as these things were indeed happening. Although some called me a scheming woman, I didn't mind. I didn't reach the position of the company's chief designer by using underhanded tactics. This afternoon, I took the initiative to ask my boss for permission to participate in the national design competition. A month ago, my boss had wanted me to sign up directly, but considering my upcoming engagement, wedding, and the fact that I'm pregnant, I politely declined at the time. Now that I have nothing else on my plate, I naturally have plenty of time to prepare for the competition. When my boss heard that I was willing to participate, he happily patted me on the shoulder and praised, "Your team is the most promising in the entire company. I'm really glad you can lead your team members to compete." In the afternoon, I arranged a meeting with my team members to discuss the competition and even made plans to go out and seek inspiration. During that time, Fuzian called me 3 times, and I hung up on him each time. After the meeting, I worked a bit longer. A colleague posted a photo of a Maybach in the group chat, and I immediately recognized it as Fuzian's car. I wanted Song Ran to cover for me so I could leave directly from the underground garage. But Fuzian's bodyguard stopped me at the elevator entrance. Fuzian quickly walked over and pulled me away. Song Ran rushed forward to try to rescue me but was pulled away by the bodyguard. I struggled desperately but was still thrown into the car by Fu Ziyan. Let me go. I struggled inside the car. But it was useless. After getting into the car, Fu Ziyan slammed the door shut and said coldly to the driver, "Drive. Go home." The car quickly drove away from the company, and I shouted, "I don't want to go home with him. Let me out." I glared at him angrily and asked, "Fu Ziyan, what exactly do you want?" Fu Ziyan looked at me expressionlessly, straightened his sleeve, and said, "Why didn't you answer my call? I had promised Fu Ziyan before that, unless I was particularly busy. I must reply to his calls whenever I saw them. He said he would worry about my safety if he couldn't reach me. Now it seems all lies." I turned my head away, unwilling to meet his gaze. "We're over, Mr. Fu. There's no need to keep pestering me." Fu Ziyan grabbed my wrist. "I don't agree to the breakup. Besides, with your current health condition, how can you not go home? And didn't we agree you wouldn't participate in that competition?" I sneered. "Isn't it a bit too late to start caring about my health now?" Fu Ziyan's gaze grew even colder. "Do you have to speak to me like this? Wouldn't it be better to be a little gentler?" I couldn't help but smile bitterly. Remembering how Fu Ziyan once said he loved my gentle temperament the most, those were nothing more than excuses I made to avoid burdening him with my negative emotions. Later, in his eyes, my obedience and compliance became something to be taken for granted. Just then, the car suddenly came to a stop. Fu Ziyan looked out the window, his brow slightly furrowed. "After so many days, are you still angry? Qingqing was sick that day. You should know which is more important. An engagement or a human life. At such an age and already engaged, yet still so childish, how will you ever become a mother?" After saying this, Fu Ziyan pulled an envelope from the car and handed it to me. "Haven't you always wanted to travel to Europe? I don't have time. So you can take a close friend with you." The trip to Europe was something I had planned to take with Fu Ziyan for our honeymoon. He never relented, saying the company had many projects and he was very busy. So just finding a nearby place to relax for a few days would be enough. Because of this, I even argued with Fu Ziyan. I said that a honeymoon is a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and we must go to the place we most desire. However, he argued that life is long and there's no need to be so particular about it. At that moment, I noticed the mark on Fu Ziyan's left hand. It was the mark left by a recently removed ring. I thought of the diamond ring Fu Ziyan gave to Jiyu Qingqing at the engagement banquet. I later looked it up. It was the first piece by a niche designer this year, a matching couples set. Presumably, the ring Fu Ziyan was wearing was the men's band I hadn't seen before. When we got home, Fu Ziyan opened the door with a look of surprise. "The ashes from the photos I burned haven't been cleared yet." Fu Ziyan looked at the blank wall, grabbed my hand angrily, and asked, "Lu Wanwan, those were our wedding photos. How could you just burn them like that? Do you even have the right to ask me?" I stared straight into his eyes, my gaze filled with disappointment and anger. "When you and Jiyu Qingqing wore matching couple rings, did you ever think of me? What's the point of keeping these wedding photos?" A flicker of panic flashed in Fu Ziyan's eyes. But he quickly regained his composure. He feigned surprise and asked, "What matching couple rings? What are you talking about?" At that moment, I pointed to the mark on Fu Ziyan's left hand. "Next time you lie, make sure your disguise is good enough. The mark from a ring doesn't disappear immediately after you take it off if you've worn it for a long time." After saying that, I opened the photo of the matching couple rings I had searched for and handed it to him. He explained somewhat flustered, "Yes, you still found out. But we really weren't wearing them as couple rings. It was just a promise I made to Jiyu Qingqing when I was young. Can you stop being so nitpicky? We were just wearing them for fun." I already knew he would still try to justify himself when he saw these. I continued to open the photos of his itinerary with Jiyu Qingqing over the past few days. This is what I hired a private investigator to stake out and send to me. Jiyu Qingqing's so-called illness was actually just an excuse. They acted like a couple every day, holding hands to go shopping and to restaurants. At night, Fu Ziyan would even take Jiyu Qingqing to a cabin in the suburbs to stargaze. I once suggested to Fu Ziyan that I wanted to watch the stars with him, but he laughed at me for being childish. When the private investigator sent these photos to me, I knew that being childish was also directed at me. He would do anything for his first love. I think if Jiyu Qingqing asked for the stars in the sky, Fu Ziyan would do everything in his power to get them for her. Fu Ziyan saw that I was silent, and his face darkened. I shook off his hand. He let go of my hand and said coldly, "After all this time to cool off, can you stop making a scene? This is really damaging our relationship." "Cool off," I sneered. "So you consider these past few days a cooling off period?" Fu Ziyan was silent for a moment, then sighed and said, "No matter what, Jiyu Qingqing and I are already in the past. Since I promised to marry you, I will definitely fulfill my responsibilities as a husband." Hearing his words, I felt not the slightest bit moved. On the contrary, it only seemed more ridiculous to me. I opened the photos of Fu Ziyan and Jiyu Qingqing entangled all night and asked him, "Is this what you call the past?" The private investigator told me he intercepted the delivery guy bringing food to Fu Ziyan and Jiyu Qingqing. The delivery guy, with a dark expression, told him the order was for 3 boxes of condoms. Fu Ziyan's face instantly turned pale. He stared at me wide-eyed, as if he couldn't believe what was happening. "You actually hired someone to investigate me?" His voice was filled with anger and disappointment. I looked at him coldly. "If it weren't for your constant deception, I wouldn't have come to this point. It seems now that there is no trust left between us." After saying that, I turned to leave, but Fu Ziyan suddenly grabbed my arm. "Don't go, I can explain." A hint of pleading showed in his eyes. "Even for the child's sake, you can't end things with me. Can you think a little for the child?" I stopped and looked back at him. "Fu Ziyan, it's impossible between us now." Fu Ziyan gritted his teeth and reached out to touch my lower abdomen. "The child is already so big, you should still think a bit more for him." I laughed mockingly. "Fu Ziyan, do you think I would still keep this child for you?" Fu Ziyan quickly grabbed my hand and demanded, "Lu Wanwan, what do you mean by that? The child is gone." Fu Ziyan's face turned pale. He let go of my hand and staggered a few steps. "How could you be so cruel? This was your child too." His voice was filled with pain and despair. A flicker of pity crossed my heart. But it was quickly replaced by resolve. "Because he is my child, that's exactly why I don't want him to grow up in a family without love." I looked up, staring straight into Fu Ziyan's eyes. "And this is the retribution you deserve." After saying this, I turned to leave, but Fu Ziyan rushed forward and grabbed my hand again. "No, you must be lying to me out of anger. You love children so much. How could you bear to abort him?" After saying this, Fu Ziyan ignored everything else, picked me up in one swift motion, and took me straight to the hospital. I showed him the report in the car, but he still didn't believe me. I let out a long sigh. "Even now, you still don't trust me." After arriving at the hospital and undergoing an examination, it was confirmed that I had just had an abortion. Fu Ziyan's eyes reddened as he clutched the examination report, crying out in anguish, "Lu Wanwan, why would you do this to me?" I silently turned my head away, not wanting to see him so heartbroken. The doctor walked over and said softly, "The patient needs to rest now. Please try to control your emotions." Fu Ziyan slowly loosened his grip, his eyes becoming hollow and lifeless. I closed my eyes, a tear sliding down my cheek. "Perhaps this is the end between us." After returning, Fu Ziyan said nothing and locked himself in the nursery. I don't know whether to stay or leave. I ended up spending the night on the sofa. Late at night, Fu Ziyan came downstairs to get a drink of water and, upon seeing me, handed me a jewelry box. Upon opening it, a diamond ring came into view. It was larger and more dazzling than the one from the engagement banquet. Fu Ziyan lowered his gaze and said, "I bought this for you as compensation. I know you wouldn't want anything that Jiyu Qingqing has worn. I once hoped that he would cherish me and treat me with affection, but now I want nothing." I directly handed the jewelry box back to him. "I don't need any of these anymore." To my surprise, Fu Ziyan didn't lose his temper on the spot. Instead, he went straight back to his room. I could faintly hear his crying. Fu Ziyan has always seemed like a very strong person in my eyes. The last time I heard him cry was when his dearest grandmother passed away. In the past, I would have rushed over to hold and comfort him with a pained heart. But now, I feel not a single ripple of emotion within me. Early the next morning, just as I was about to leave, my parents knocked on the door. My parents were overjoyed to see both me and Fuzian at home. Mom was busy in the kitchen, while Dad kept an eye on me. During breakfast, the three of them simultaneously and harmoniously served me food, creating a joyful atmosphere. My mother kept saying good things about Fuzian. Wonwan, look at how well your husband treats our family every day, you should learn to cherish that. As for men, as long as they don't make any fundamental mistakes, what's there to be angry about? You'd be hard-pressed to find another man as good as him in Jiangcheng, even with a lantern. My parents are clearly the elders, but every time they see Fuzian, they are overly attentive, as if they were serving a boss. Seeing me lower my head in silence, they directly brought up what happened at the engagement banquet. They also boasted to Fuzian, claiming that right after the engagement banquet ended, they had forced me to come and apologize to him. Their fawning manner made me feel a wave of discomfort in my stomach. Seeing that my parents had given him plenty of respect, Fuzian directly stated, "Don't worry, after we get married, as long as Wonwan behaves, I will definitely treat him well." Fuzian looked at me meaningfully, as if he had everything under control, but what he didn't know was that I was no longer the Lu Wonwan I used to be. I smashed the milk glass in front of me and yelled, "Enough, how many times do I have to say it? Fuzian and I are over, there's no way I'll be with him. If you really are my biological parents, stop trying to persuade me." My mother clutched her chest in anger and shouted, "You wretched girl, are you trying to kill me? You were the one who pursued her, and now she wants to marry you. Why are you always acting so petty?" Fuzian clenched his fists tightly, his brows furrowed so deeply they could crush a fly. He seemed quite surprised by my behavior today. He probably never expected me to be so resolute this time. Although my father was clearly furious, he still smiled at Fuzian and said, "I'm sorry, son-in-law, for making you witness such an embarrassment. It's our fault for not raising our daughter properly." After saying that, my father, unable to contain his anger, slapped me across the face. "Lu Wonwan, I order you to apologize to Fuzian immediately. You're 30 years old, yet you speak without thinking all day long. You already have a child. What kind of trouble are you still trying to stir up? Such a trivial matter, and you're still making a scene. Fuzian is willing to marry you despite all this. That's an immense act of grace. Don't be so ungrateful all the time." Dad's slap was very heavy, and blood seeped from the corner of my mouth. I covered my face, my eyes reddening, and looked at them. Fuzian quickly stood up and walked to my side, asking with concern, "Are you okay? Should I take you to the hospital?" I sneered, my face full of disgust. "Fuzian, isn't this exactly what you wanted to see? Why are you pretending to be the good guy?" I pushed him away, grabbed my bag, and rushed straight out of the house. I pulled the car over to the side of the road and cried, trembling all over. I directly moved up the company's travel plans. I took my team members to the mountains to find inspiration. I've always wanted to visit the children in the mountainous areas, and this business trip finally fulfilled my personal wish. I arranged for 5 trucks to deliver supplies as donations for the children. What I didn't expect was that Fuzian came along with the trucks. The moment he saw me, he rushed over and hugged me. On the day I left Jiangcheng, I gave Fuzian a big gift. That was the truth about Jiyu Qingqing's divorce. Jiyu Qingqing did not divorce because she could no longer tolerate her ex-husband's infidelity, as she had claimed. In fact, the one who had actually been unfaithful was herself. The private investigator helped me get in touch with Jiyu Qingqing's ex-husband. I have to praise her ex-husband for being a meticulous person. Most of the evidence was provided to me by him. Fuzian held these pieces of evidence, his hands trembling slightly. He never imagined that Jiyu Qingqing, whom he had always trusted, could be such a person. He felt immense anger and disappointment, while also being filled with gratitude toward me. "Thank you for letting me see her true colors," Fuzian said, a flicker of determination in his eyes. "I will handle this matter properly." Fuzian held me tightly, unwilling to let go, while the team members around us all started teasing and cheering. Finally, I couldn't hold back my anger and kicked him in the leg. Fuzian let go of me in pain. He stayed with us in the mountainous area for 3 days, constantly checking on me and showing concern. In the end, I was so angry that I drove him away. After he left, I watched his receding figure for a long time, unwilling to turn away. Songran asked me if I regretted the breakup, and I shook my head firmly. I was just reflecting on when we started to drift apart step by step until we reached this point. After Fu Ziyan left, I devoted all my attention to the design competition. During the day, we would take time to teach the children in the mountainous areas, and sometimes in the evenings. They would take us to the mountaintop to gaze at the starry sky. The stars in the mountains are the most beautiful night sky I have ever seen, as bright as the children's eyes. Seeing how much I loved children, the village chief casually asked me how old my own children were. I couldn't help but tear up. I don't have a child. I gave him up with my own hands. The village chief was somewhat surprised but still comforted me. You're still young. You'll definitely have one in the future. I let out a long sigh, not even knowing myself if I would ever have another child in the future. After finding inspiration, we left the mountainous area and returned to Jiangcheng. I've settled into an apartment in Jiangcheng, right next to Ju Ran's building. I work overtime every day on my designs, while Ju Ran takes care of making dinner for me at home. Soon, it was the day of the design competition. And what made me uncomfortable was that Fu Ziyan seemed to have given everyone a heads up in advance. All the judges greeted me warmly, calling me Mrs. Fu. I don't have the time to explain to each of them one by one, so I can only call Fu Yang. But Fu Yang replied, "My wife can only be you." I didn't argue with him. I firmly believe that time can change everything. In the end, I successfully made it to the finals and won the first prize I had always dreamed of. After returning to Jiangcheng, Fu Yang came to pick me up at the airport with a bouquet of flowers and gave me the keys to the villa. He said he was very happy to see me grow so quickly, and that the villa held my memories of the child. I didn't refuse, and we wished each other all the best. The future will surely be even better. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. So feel free to share your opinions, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more great stories. We'll see you in the next video.